Good afternoon, everyone. So today I have a short presentation eyeing the impact, ocular manifestations of xeroderma pigmentosum. So xeroderma pigmentosum is a rare autosomal recessive DNA repair disorder leading to deficient repair of DNA damage due to ultraviolet radiation. It has got ophthalmic, dermatologic, and neurological manifestations, and Kaposi at first coined the term denoting the dry and pigmented skin. So worldwide, it's a very rare disease with the incidence of 1 in 250,000 live births. So it's known to have 8 subgroups, A to G and XPV, which correspond to the 8 genes that is affected in this condition. And these genes are involved in nucleotide excision repair, which identifies and repairs the DNA damaged by ultraviolet radiation. So the clinical manifestations generally are photosensitivity, skin pigmentary changes, UV-induced damage to eyes, cutaneous tumors, and also neurological degeneration that is progressive. So in our study, we conducted an ophthalmic examination all xeroderma patients from June 2018 to September 2024, which was a retrospective observational study, and a complete ophthalmic evaluation was done. So a total of 30 patients were diagnosed with xeroderma pigmentosum, out of which 17 were female and 13 were male patients, and the mean age was 21.9 years. And for the ease of analysis, we classified these abnormalities based on a few topics, which we shall be discussing one by one. The first was the eyelid abnormalities, and we could see that ectropion was seen in 4 patients, trichiasis and lid mass was seen in 3 patients each, and entropion and symblepharon were seen in 2 patients. So the ocular surface symptoms, the patients presented with photophobia mainly. Also, they had redness, watering, and foreign body sensation. So quantifying the characteristics, the patients had punctate keratopathy, and the other major factor finding was ocular surface squamous neoplasia. So this was one of our patients with bilateral OSSN, and after histopathology, we found out that the right eye had conjunctival intraepithelial neoplasia grade 3, and the left eye had invasive SCC, squamous cell carcinoma that is. So in our series, 2 of the cases had invasive squamous cell carcinoma, and 1 had a concurrent nasal bridge squamous cell carcinoma as well. So, but sadly, we had it resulted in death of both these patients, as both of them were lost to follow-up. So this is an interesting series where we can see there are 5 siblings from the same family, which we documented and photographed in the year 2018 and 6 years later in 2024. And here we can see that there's progressive changes in the skin, and there are also other changes which are progressing in the eyes as well. So these are 2 siblings from another family, where we can see that in the first patient, we had got dense corneal haze, and in the second case, we had got dense symblepharon in both the eyes. So in neuro-ophthalmic abnormalities, 7 out of the 30 patients had sluggish pupils, and 3 out of the 30 patients had abnormal extraocular movements. 2 of the 30 patients had some cataract, and 1 out of 30 had some retinal abnormalities as well. So our study found a very large proportion of xeroderma patients, that is 93%, with ocular involvement. Hence, it underscores the importance of regular detailed examination of xeroderma patients by an ophthalmologist and close watch on development of lid and surface neoplasia. So there should be a regular use of UV protective sunglasses, there should be a regular use of lubricants, and urgent treatment is required if any ocular disorder develops. Hence, in contrast to the populace saying that sunlight is good for you, but for xeroderma pigmentosum patients, it is stay away from sunlight and save your sight. Thank you.
What is the duration of your study, doctor? You said 30 cases you enrolled.
Yes, ma'am. So
What is the duration?
it was 6 years, 2018 to 2024.
Nice paper. So is your region have a high number of population of these patients, because we don't see so frequently?
Yes, ma'am, maybe because we live in the hilly region, people, they come to us. So maybe that's because there's high UV radiation in that area as well.
So any conservative management you give them?
Ma'am, we ask them, we counsel them mainly. We give them UV protective sunglasses and regular use of lubricants. And we advise them follow up every 3 months.
Any other malignancy they have? Any other skin malignancy or any other association with?
Yes, ma'am. Skin malignancy, many of them they do have or they do develop in the course of the disease. So mainly they have squamous cell carcinoma and basal cell carcinoma. And some, I think one case had melanoma. Okay, yes.
In your study, is there any other case that a combine of squamous cell carcinoma with basal cell carcinoma?
No, sir, not yet. So they have different cases, but it's not in the same case.
Yes. Sometimes there may be,
There may be, yes, sir.
especially in the nose, which
Yeah.
may be misleading.
Yes, sir.
In the squamous cell carcinoma on the face and the adnexa, and then the nose, there may be some other defect.
Yeah, sure. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
How you manage the OSN and OSSN?
Oh, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, we conducted a wide excision followed by cryotherapy and an AMG in all these cases. And if the margins came out positive, we will start them on immunosuppressant drugs as well, topical.
The surgical management.
Yes, sir. Because in our setup, we don't easily get interferon supply. So for most of the cases, we go for surgical management itself.